Hello, and welcome to TechTalk, where you will hear the latest in technology and investment trends directly from trendsetters. I'm your host, Janina Teoxon, member of EisnerAmper's Technology and Life Sciences practice, and with me today is Bernardita Calinao, an urban tech innovator, startup founder, and advocate for smarter, more walkable cities. As the founder of Walkspan, Bernardita is pioneering a data-driven approach to pedestrian infrastructure by using technology to measure and improve walkability in urban environments. Today's episode is extra special for me because our guest is not only an accomplished leader in tech, but also a fellow Filipino-American, my kababayan. I'm truly excited to share her story with you as we explore how Walkspan is using urban tech to elevate the pedestrian experience, the innovations behind its data-driven platform, and what it takes to build and fund a startup that's shaping the future of infrastructure. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to EisnerAmper wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can also find us on YouTube at EisnerAmper. Today's insightful conversation could influence next steps for your startup. Bernardita, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start with your startup's mission because we are aware that urban livability and walkability are increasingly shaping how people interact with cities. That includes the residents as well as its visitors. And Walkspan seems to be approaching this space with a fresh perspective. Could you briefly share Walkspan's mission and the core problem you're working to solve?
Walkspan's vision is to leverage the power of the private sector and in particular real estate in order to enhance the character and the quality of the walking environment. And we do this through data and location intelligence. And for real estate, for example, there's a strong focus on property search. And what we want to do is to give a big focus as well on neighborhood search, like lifestyle essentials, what's important to people buying properties, like they're also the neighborhood character. So these are important things to buyers, which will enhance the quality of their lives and also increase sales for realtors.
At EisnerAmper, we are creative problem solvers that take a 360-degree approach focusing on you. We're an award-winning firm with decades of experience. EisnerAmper, let's get you ready.
Right. So Walkspan's mission seems to sit right at the intersection of urban infrastructure and livability, right? Both are clearly central to the pedestrian experience. And when it comes to improving that experience, one of the biggest challenges is making pedestrian data both scalable and actionable. What are the specific urban pain point did you identify that led to the creation of Walkspan?
So I could start with my personal pain point, I think. So a few years back, I was taking courses at the American Management Association, and this was at Times Square. And every morning I would walk from Grand Central Station to Times Square. And the path that I followed, which is a direct path, is very gloomy, very bleak. It's early in the morning. The stores are still closed. And I had to experience that every day in garbage piles on the side. And so I said, you know what? Why don't I walk maybe 2 blocks up and see if I would feel the same way about the sidewalk? And there I saw lots of flowers, lots of trees, banners and very clean sidewalk. And it made me very happy. So I said, I wish there was a tool that will help you find these sidewalks. And so that became one of my missions, is to see maybe there can be something that would help people find their happy place. And also because location intelligence and big data technologies are more available now. Yeah, so that's the personal pain point. But when you think of the US, for example, I'm not alone. Like there's a study by the National Association of Realtors, NAR, in 2023, where 78% of Americans will pay more to move to walkable neighborhoods. And millennials are also known as the walkable generation. And along with Gen Zs, the same study said that 90% of them prefer walkability. And then when you think of the health angle of this, the CDC spends $1.4 billion a year to prevent illnesses that are caused by physical inactivity, and walking can be a very viable solution to prevent these illnesses. When you also think about the decline of downtowns, that's also a huge pain point in many cities right now. And when you make cities more walkable, you would increase foot traffic, and that would also be a pain point that can be solved. So, yeah.
So I think I agree with that. I'm part of the millennial generation. So I think I agree that I'd like to be in a neighborhood where I can just walk, and the environment is like nice and like good to walk by. And I like that what you said about your personal pain point. It's such, I feel like it's an insightful way for you to frame the issue. It makes the problem feel more tangible, right? And as you know, Bernardita, these days we're seeing a wave of startups using AI, geospatial analytics, and machine learning to tackle infrastructure challenges. And Walkspan seems to be part of that new frontier. So how are you integrating technology into Walkspan's platform to deliver smarter insights and accelerate adoption?
Yeah, so in 2020, we got a patent issued, and this is a recommendation system to evaluate the quality of sidewalks. And so that started our development of some AI-driven technologies, one of which is location intelligence, which is basically the science of where things are. And so that's extremely helpful in just understanding and mapping neighborhoods. And then the other technology that is AI relevant is recommendation system, which is an arm of machine learning and relevant engineering. So what we do is we filter some of the collaborative perceptions of people trying to understand their preferences and what they want in neighborhoods. And with that, we're able to generate some recommendations of where things might be in terms of their preferences. The other thing that we're working on is on natural language processing because of the rise of ChatGPT and all that. So we are developing like a chatbot to prompt ChatGPT, for example, to try to extract Walkspan data and be able to structure it in their format and provide it to the public. And in the future, we are looking into computer vision only because there's hardly any information on the data points that affect the experience of walking. We can't even use Google Street View because Google Street View is viewed from cars and from the street, and the experience of walking has to be on the corridor itself. So there are over 200 data points on the walking corridor, and it's very important to use a higher level of technology to identify all of them. And right now we're only using open data because we're bootstrapped, but eventually we would rely on better technologies.
It's very impressive how all these technologies that's being used to make the neighborhoods more human-centered. Yeah. And there's a lot of platforms being built right now across many industries. And our clients here at EisnerAmper often ask us what these kinds of platforms look like in action, like how they are actually used on the ground. Can you walk us through a real world example of how Walkspan is being applied in an urban setting?
Yeah. So right now, our main use case is for real estate, but over time, we would focus on travel because it's the same platform. It's just a different set of users. And also later on, focus on navigation. But for real estate, for example, it helps people they know what they like in the home and they know what they like in the neighborhood. Like I must have a Subway or Trader Joe's or a cafe or an urgent care. These are important things. And so we map the neighborhoods within a 5-minute walk, 10 and 20. And we can tell you, well, within a 5-minute walk, you will find all of this or not, And so it will help them compare different neighborhoods and understand which of them meet their home criteria and also meet their neighborhood criteria. So it very much helps in decision making, both trying to understand which of these listings have your must-haves and which of them you can compare to see what's neighborhood is best for you.
That's really great, right? Like, because last year I had to, I did my home buying journey, and obviously I have that criteria in like my home search. And I feel like, yes, having this to help me, how long it takes me to get to school, how long is the walk to get to like a Trader Joe's, for example, you said, like a grocery store, things like that, to church, to banks, all of that. So yeah, that's really great. I like how you broke that down for us. It helps visualize the impact of Walkspan.
Yeah, and for travel, it's the same. Like you're looking for an Airbnb or 4 Airbnb locations or 4 hotels, and you want to know if which one is next to Subway or an Italian restaurant, or a park, and that way you can also compare and make decisions before you travel to these places. Yeah, and the application for navigation is also something we're working on because Google, if you go say I want to walk, tell me to go from point A to B, it will just show you the shortest distance. But our data will let you go in another route where there are more trees. So you can direct future navigation tools to say, yeah, I have 5 minutes. So I want to walk where there are trees, or I need to go shopping, so I want to walk where there are more shops or some historic charm and all that. So we call them preferential mapping because you can now choose where you want to walk as opposed to just getting the direction of the short distance. Yeah, and studies show actually that a nicer walk feels shorter than a short walk.
Oh, agree. Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Right. Okay. So let's talk about investor feedback, because we know that early stage investors are increasingly drawn to solutions that combine social impact with scalable tech. And I imagine Walkspan has sparked some interesting conversations. So what kind of response have you received from funders when you present Walkspan's concept and potential?
Yeah, I think we've got mixed responses only because when you think about walking, it seems like a very mundane exercise. I mean, but it's more than that. I mean, I just bought a book on the science of walking, and there's really a lot that happens when you experience walking. It comes, for example, it's not just about safety. There are many aspects to the walking experience like beauty, utility, interest, vibrance, access, sustainability that all affect the experience of walking. But with the investors, for example, I think they get very excited when I talk about this but it's rather new about measuring, the walking experience, measuring the quality of the sidewalks. So because they're very interested of obviously in returns. So they are expecting more traction and more revenue. And so we are currently focusing on the sales part now because we've spent quite a bit of time in the development phase. So this year we are really focusing on the sales phase and hopefully would be able to attract more investors. At this point, we've only had funding from family and friends. And so the next phase would be on seed funding.
Gotcha. Okay. You kind of answered this a little bit, but that's kind of my next question. Yeah, we guess a lot of founders on our podcast, and many of the founders we speak with are navigating the transition from early traction to growth capital. And you kind of mentioned that you are your next plans, but maybe it's always because it's always interesting to hear how founders are planning that next phase. So, where is Walkspan currently in terms of funding and development, and what's the next big milestone you're working toward?
Yeah. So the really big milestone for us is sales in terms of our current activity. And in terms of funding, we are seeking about $2 million for seed funding. And that for growth plans, for example, we're focused on New York City now, but then the next step would go to be going national and global. And then the next step would be to focus on the travel part and also on the navigation, and also with our data, our technology, we can also help cities and municipalities in their projects to improve the walkability of their communities.
It's a lot of exciting milestones up ahead. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the future. And as cities become more data driven, we're seeing a shift from simply interpreting existing infrastructure to using insights to inform how future environments are designed. How do you envision Walkspan's data being used over time, not just to help people navigate today's urban terrain, but to actively guide how infrastructure evolves in the years ahead?
Yeah, so I see three possibilities here. One is with real estate alone. It doesn't have to be major infrastructure, but it is some sort of physical improvement in the public realm. Because with real estate, they have such thing as home staging, right? But they could extend that in cities for sidewalk staging because many cities like even in London, where there are neighborhoods that are very pretty with flowers and all, they attract more visitors than places that are very bleak. And so it's very easy to do sidewalk staging. You don't have to dig the ground and all that. Just put benches and planters and all that. And that would be a big change already if that happens, because they know that the value of the property will increase if they call it curb appeal in suburban areas, but that would really make a huge difference. And then when it comes to like more specific infrastructure improvement, like in New York City, for example, we scored 168,000 sidewalks. That's how many sidewalks there are in New York City. So we know where the trees are. We know where there are no absence of shops, and we know where historic architecture is. We know, for example, that Harlem has the widest sidewalks in the city, which is so beautiful. Unfortunately, it's redlined. So we can tell the city which sidewalks have no trees, or we can tell them, where to restore historic architecture. And so this is data that we can provide for them to improve on the infrastructure. And then, yeah, and lastly, there's a new concept in urban planning called the 15-minute city in Paris. It won a very prestigious award because they are applying it in the city. And the whole idea is to make cities less reliant on motorized vehicles and more reliant on walkability and soft mobility and on public transportation. And so the idea of this is that our technology can help operationalize these plans to make cities more walkable, just like in the 15-minute city idea in Paris. I guess in New York or the US, we would call it the 20-minute city because it's like a mile long and all that. But it's the same concept. So there are many ways that our data and technology can be applied.
Wow. That's really great and exciting to think about your platform, not just reflecting the city or New York City or many other cities, but also helping improve it and shape it, make it better for everybody living in that neighborhood or city. Now, I'm down to my last question, Bernardita, because we have a lot of listeners right now who are either building their own ventures or thinking about taking the leap, and your journey could really resonate with them. What piece of advice would you offer to other entrepreneurs who are trying to innovate in the urban tech or data driven space?
Yeah. So I read a book a while ago called The New Grand Strategy, Restoring America's Prosperity, Security, and Sustainability. And it's a very, very interesting book by Mike Mickleby. And they talked about three opportunities of businesses in the 21st century. These are called the business pools or something. The first one is called regenerative agriculture. So there's a whole chapter on that. The other one is resource productivity. And another chapter focused on walkable communities. And so I was very happy to read that. And their conclusion is that it will generate $252 billion a year in residential sales alone. And so that's very exciting to know about. And so I think future entrepreneurs should not think of walking as just a very simple exercise, and that there's really a lot that goes behind this besides safety, and a lot of impact, not just for the economic impact, social impact, and also environmental impact. And so I think my advice or my message to them is that they should focus on the whole business of walking, and also because they hold in their hands the shape of tomorrow. All of this would have a really visual impact and aesthetic impact and health impacts and all that. Yeah.
Oh, love that perspective. Bernardita, thank you for taking time to have a conversation with me today.
Thank you too.
For those who'd like to follow Walkspan, what's the best way to connect with you?
Through LinkedIn, they can connect with me through our website. So yeah, please reach out.
What's the website? Do you want to mention the website?
Oh, it's walkspan.ai.
Okay. All right. Thanks again, Bernardita. And thanks to our listeners for tuning into Tech Talk, the entrepreneurs and innovators who turn to EisnerAmper for assurance, tax, advisory, and outsourcing solutions to help propel their business forward. Again, subscribe to the EisnerAmper podcast to listen to more Tech Talk episodes, or visit EisnerAmper.com for more tech news you can use.